So, Arnold Schwarzenegger, we all know the name, right? Bodybuilder, movie star, the freaking governator. But how on earth did he pull all that off? It definitely wasn't luck. Today, in this explainer, we're going to break down the exact blueprint he used to build his incredible life, starting from a tiny Austrian village and ending up on the world stage.
See, for Arnold, it's pretty simple. Success is not an accident, it's a system. He followed a very specific set of rules that took him from being this unknown kid to a global icon. And it all kicks off with what he says is the single most important rule of all.
All right, rule number 1, you've got to have a vision. Arnold is convinced this is the absolute foundation for success. Without it, you're not just drifting, you're just kind of floating along, letting life push you wherever it wants. And he argues that's the sad reality for most people.
And he is so serious about this. I mean, think about it. If you don't have a clear destination in mind, what's the point of all the hard work? You can be busy all day long, but you'll never actually get anywhere meaningful. You end up playing defense your whole life, just reacting to things, instead of actually calling the shots.
And you know, this right here, this slide kind of shows you what happens when people don't have a vision. Arnold points to this stat all the time. 74% of people in America apparently hate their jobs, and his take on it is pretty clear. It's because that job isn't part of a bigger dream. It's just something they do to pay the bills, not a real step toward the life they actually want.
Now, for Arnold himself, this big vision didn't just pop into his head overnight. Not at all. It was more of a slow burn. Growing up in Austria right after the war, he just had this feeling that he was meant for something bigger. Then, when he was 11, he saw a documentary about America, the huge bridges, the skyscrapers, and he just knew, that's where I belong. But he didn't know how to get there, until he stumbled upon a magazine.
And then this happened. This was the light bulb moment. On the cover of this magazine was a guy named Reg Park, Mr. Universe, a movie star who played Hercules. For Arnold, this wasn't just a cool picture. It was a roadmap. It was like his whole future was laid out right there in front of him on that magazine rack.
And you can see here just how much a clear vision simplifies things. It's like all of a sudden the fog clears. The steps became totally obvious. 1. Become the world's best bodybuilder. 2. Get into the movies. 3. Make millions. Suddenly, his future wasn't some big mystery anymore.
And that is the incredible power of having a clear vision. People would see him in the gym, training for 5 or 6 hours a day, and they'd ask him, "Why are you always smiling?" Well, for him, it wasn't work. Every single rep, every 500-pound squat, it was just one more step toward making his dream a reality. The work, it actually became fun.
And, well, you can't argue with the results, right? At just 20 years old, he became the youngest Mr. Universe in history. It was a massive achievement, and he says it's all because he had that crystal clear vision. But here's the thing. Having a vision is just step 1. It's only half the battle.
Okay, so that brings us to rule number 2. Because the second you have a vision, the second you decide you're going to do something different, something big, you are going to run smack into a wall of people telling you you're crazy and that it's impossible.
And Arnold, he heard this stuff all the time. From his own family back in Austria, from bodybuilding judges, and, oh yeah, especially from Hollywood agents. The message was always the same. That's impossible. You can't do that. No. And that's why his second rule is so important.
So here's the real key. It wasn't just that he ignored the negativity, he actually changed it in his own mind. Whenever someone told him it can't be done, what he heard was it can be done. When they said no, he heard yes. He literally turned their doubt into rocket fuel for his own ambition.
He really took this idea to heart, an idea that Nelson Mandela put so perfectly. To him, the word impossible just meant nobody had gotten around to doing it yet. And he figured, well, I'll be the one to do it. And man, was that mindset put to the test when he got to Hollywood to try and pull off step 2 of his plan. He had the vision, but the people in charge, the gatekeepers, they just saw a long list of problems. He was not what they were looking for in a leading man. Not even close.
So you can see here, the Hollywood experts had their verdict. They told him his body was too strange, a total liability. They said that thick Austrian accent was a career ender, but Arnold saw things differently. For him, those weren't weaknesses. They were his secret weapons, just waiting for the right opportunity.
And then Conan the Barbarian came along. The director, John Milius, said later that Arnold's body wasn't a problem at all. It was the whole point. He said if they didn't have Arnold, they would have had to literally build a guy that looked like him. Just like that, the thing everyone said was his biggest problem became the very reason he got the part.
And guess what? The exact same thing happened with his accent.
James Cameron, who directed The Terminator, said that the accent, the thing everyone made fun of, was actually the key. It made him sound like an unstoppable machine. The movie just wouldn't have been the same without it. Once again, what they called a weakness turned out to be one of his most iconic strengths.
So when you boil it all down, the blueprint is really about two things. You need an internal vision that's so strong and clear that it makes the hard work feel like play. And then you need an external shield, and you use that shield to turn all that negativity, all their no's, into your personal yes.
Look, Arnold's story isn't just about Arnold. It's a massive lesson in proving people wrong. He proved to everyone that impossible is just a word, an opinion, not a fact. So the real question he leaves us with isn't about him at all. It's about you. What are you going to prove